I want to talk about how to mitigate ego backlash. So this is something that you will eventually come up against. Ego backlash. If you are growing enough, if you are growing fast enough on your self-actualization journey, you will face one ego backlash after another. And I'm here to tell you that there's many ways to mitigate and to grow through these tough times. You see, whenever you try to grow yourself, you will come up against the homeostasis of your whole psyche. You know, your mind, your body, every part of you is striving to stay the same. And when you're trying to grow yourself, literally a part of yourself has to die in order for your new self to be born. So what this means is that when you start to change yourself enough such that you're starting to make some permanent change, you're going to get some reactions. Next thing you know, if you've been, sober for 9 months and then you start growing yourself in other areas, next thing you know, you relapsed and you've been drinking for a week or whatever, right? We can predict these moments that we are going to start to fall. These are, some people will call these moments of compression that we will have to grow through, where we have to really hunker down and realize all right, if I really want to earn this personal growth, I'm going to have to go through this compression phase, So there's expansion phases and compression phases of what some people would like to label this as. What I've noticed, I've recently been able to mitigate an ego backlash because I did not want to go through a whole nother ordeal like the ego backlash I had back in November, where I was just in 10 days there, it was just no progress. So what I did was, since I've started to track everything I do, I start to notice, when I'm wavering a little bit on my workouts. I start to notice when I'm starting a little bit later. I'm starting to notice just even in my mind. I'm starting to notice in my energy levels. I'm just starting to notice in my attitude, right? And then it is in those moments that you need to reach into your treasure chest to remind you to keep going in every single moment. To remind you why you started in the first place. If you haven't already, make yourself a manifesto where you've written this document for yourself, where you've included, things that you say to yourself when the journey starts to get difficult. Write a manifesto for your own personal development journey. What is acceptable, minimum standard action for you on a daily basis, right? So if you track your progress, in certain ways, like tracking your habits, giving minimum quotas for how long you have to work out or what kind of routine you have to do every day, minimum quotas for how much you have to work on writing or whatever the project is for you, and by what time you want it to be finished, right? If you have set out routines, and then you actually have a notebook where you write when you start, when you finish, how much volume you put in, you can notice very quickly that an ego backlash is coming, because these numbers will start to waver, And you'll also, with an ego backlash, you'll get cravings for old vices. That's another thing as well. And with that, you have to find new ways to make your life more abundant with healthier sources of outlets, So that's going to put you ahead, not put you behind. A lot of people have a lot of leisure activities that are what I would call negative forms of leisure, because they have a net negative. Whereas there's the positive forms of leisure, which they have a net positive impact on your life, right? And then the negative ones, right? It's like going to the bar and drinking your face off. And you come back, come home with an empty wallet and then hungover, right? That kind of thing. Whereas like a positive is like, you go to a dance class and you learn how to dance, you get a good exercise in, you feel good, and you enjoy the activity, right? That would be more like a positive form of leisure. What's very important when it comes to mitigating ego backlash is to be very proactive, right? You want to be able to catch it before it gets the best of you, And for me, like what really helps me, like just to get that extra emotional push over, how difficult it was feeling was like, I don't want to feel the pain of doing, less than. I don't want to feel the pain of making it, I don't want to have my life look like what it looked like in November there, right? So sometimes having an ego backlash as an experience it's just a good reference experience for you to say, I don't want that, right? So I'm going to work harder now to make sure that I can lock in this higher state of being, right? This new level. And with new levels, you'll have new devils, right? You will have new challenges when you start to elevate your level. It's not going to get easier. It's just going to, as you take more challenges, you're going to have more problems. You're going to have even more difficult to deal with problems, right? That's the whole thing about taking more on in your life. You're going to have, more positives, but also more negatives. But you'll be stronger at carrying that load. And when it comes to, because the thing is too, like we can do stuff like we can track our progress and we can notice like, all right, like, we can notice like, all right, like I'm going through an ego backlash, so I'm not going to let it blindside me. I'm going to be proactive about it. I'm going to watch myself even more. I'm going to put even more emphasis on my self-care, stuff like that. So, I'll schedule in positive leisure time. I will make sure I, hit that wake up time perfectly. I make sure I hit that workout on time perfectly, put that effort in. You can do all this stuff to preempt all this stuff, right? However, when it comes to our own personal journey, sometimes we have to ask ourselves, do we pivot or persevere? Because sometimes you might be doing a technique that's not good for you, or maybe you need to change like what you're doing such that you find something that works better for you. Sometimes, for example, like the best workout routine is going to be the routine that you can stick to. And like sometimes like when we're doing our routines of like focusing and working on our craft, it's not aligned with our energy style, right? We can still be a high output individual, but we have to acclimatize the way we work to how our psyche operates. And what I mean is using the Kolbe A index, Kolbe A index, to identify what your energy style is, so as that you don't constantly run yourself into burnout after burnout, thinking that you're just a loser when really you're not running the machine that you're equipped with properly. You've got a A machine, but you're running it with B instructions, right? You got to change the instruction manual that you're using such that you can learn how to operate your mind, your brain, your focus style, to your own optimal ability, right? Some people are going to be able to just, read, go straight through deep work stuff. Other people, they need that intervals. Other people, like, it just depends what works for them. But I will tell you, in general, tracking what you do will always give you a higher volume of output. Giving you a schedule is going to give you a high volume of output. The more you schedule in, the more output you'll create. But yeah, I just want to talk about that a little bit because pivoting or persevering, I noticed that you know, I was trying to get all this work done, but I was doing it in a way that wasn't congruent to my own energy style. And so the Kolbe A index helped me with identifying that. And since then, I've been able to be way more productive. And another thing too, is just simply is tuning into your own direct experience. Like, when do you get depleted, right? And what activities deplete you the most, right? And so if you burn one of these batteries, right to the bottom, then you're completely exhausted for the day. So find like what activities that you can like burn like the battery like down to 10%, and then switch to tasks so you can wait for your other batteries to refill. Can you live in a spreadsheet all day? I sure as shit can't. I'd kill myself, right? But I can live in a book all day, writing all day. I can like read all day, right? It really depends on what it is, right? But there's certain things that you're going to be able to do all day, and there's certain things that you're going to be able to, do only for a couple hours. So notice what those things are for you, and then schedule it, in a certain way, like where you don't like, if you burn out 3 hours, then do 2 hours a day, right? That kind of thing, such that you can stop running into this burnout, into this ego backlash. And with that, notice what's the most cognitively demanding and difficult for you, and schedule the most difficult shit first thing in the morning, first thing throughout your day. And then as you notice, your mind wavering, and as you notice your focus wavering, it is important to push yourself a little bit, to gain the skills of learning how to, cultivate like reading for longer, working for longer. That's important. But in general, notice when you're starting to burn out a little bit, stop that task and work on a task that's less cognitively demanding. You can list out all the things you do throughout the day, right? And you can put them in categories from most cognitively demanding to least cognitively demanding. So when you're getting your fill on the most cognitively demanding task, then you switch to a less cognitively demanding. And then when you can't handle that anymore, you switch to an even less cognitively demanding. And then you keep on switching until like the last tasks you're doing is like just mindless stuff, like washing the dishes or like cleaning the house, right? For me, like to clean the house at the end of the day is the best time because it's mindless, and I can just like listen to music or do some affirmations. And that's what works for me. That's what works for the energy style that I have, right? And so find ways, to organize your day relative to like how you're feeling. Some days you will just have, like all the energy in the world, and you'll be able to like work on writing your book. If you're writing a book for like 7 hours that day, perfect, right? Do that, lean into that. But then other days you can't even crank out 2. Don't like drag yourself for another 3 hours. Just say stop. I'm stopping here, and I'm going to go into the next onto my next task. And you have these tasks premeditated, so you don't have to think and decide what the next task is. You're like, all right, I'm gonna look at my task here. Okay, we're doing this one, and then you move on, right? And then you burn out a little bit, then you move on, right? That's another thing that can help you massively with your ego backlashes, right? So the recap, right, with ego backlashes, track your progress so you can notice, track yourself, all your things, what you do throughout the day, so you can notice like when you're starting to waver and like you see an ego backlash coming around the corner. Great. When you can identify it, perfect, right? The best way you can mitigate ego backlash is when you can identify it, because if you're not aware of it, then it's going to blindside you, right? And you don't want that, because that's an unwelcome thing. And then when you can have the awareness of it, be proactive, hunker down, reach into your treasure chest to inspire yourself, and also, reach into like, I don't want to experience the ego backlash, so I'm going to put in the extra effort now, even though it's more difficult right now, even though it's more painful, I'm going to lean in. And then, notice that this too shall pass. You're just through a phase of compression right now. You will eventually go back to a phase of expansion. where you're gonna be able, it's gonna be easier. But for right now, it's gonna suck more. And then also, yeah, I mean, if you're running after wall and it's nothing's working for you, then you probably need to pivot. And you gotta find something that's more tuned with your energy style, and such that you can find the way you work the best, such that you can have that 10-hour output. But you just gotta find what that is for you. All right, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.